Okay.
Shout out to Jenna. Okay.
We're good? Okay. I wonder, 1 second, we're just gonna explain that at 7:41, we're going back in, onto session because the recording dropped, the YouTube connection dropped. So we paused all discussion. There has been no further discussion, and if we were in the midst of discussing services related to the pantry, which is a donation-based service and is critical for people with food security issues. And if it had not been heard, we had said that we were comfortable offering that service to whomever needed it in our community, whether they were First Out community member or not.
And I would, maybe that should be a separate motion that, the library board, agrees that it's not necessary to produce a library card to use the pantry services at the library. Maybe we could deal with that motion first and then go back to the motion from 6.1.
And if we could include the phone in that as well.
Yep.
Since helped some individuals who were in transit out in a big way to be able to make a connection and not be stuck on the side of the Highway 7 at night waiting for a ride. So if it's okay, I'd like to include pantry and the phone in the library for anyone to use.
Does that also mean that they cannot use adult learning services?
Adult learning has never fallen under this budget, so it's its own beast.
So that's right, it gets
Yeah.
money from the province, never mind, don't worry about that. I just thought about your in-kind service, but I think that that's fine. Okay, so, we have then I guess 2 motions then potentially. We have one on the table with that's been made with a second, and then, we have this other additional motion that we want to include as well.
I think it should be a separate
Motion.
I know it's maybe nothing, but can we amend the first motion to say regretfully cease service
Yes.
for South?
I am comfortable with the moving party. I'm comfortable with that amendment.
Thank you.
So I think we've had quite a bit of discussion on the original motion. I think unless there was additional discussion warranted, are we comfortable making that first motion related to?
Let me read the motion
Yeah, can we
again.
read the motion? Yeah.
That the per self agreement update report be received and that the board chair and the library CEO draft a letter to reflect the board's position on library services for the remainder of 2024 for self residents. And that the library board will regretfully cease library services to per self residents for the remainder of 2024 or until an acceptable agreement has been reached, effective as of May 3rd, 2024.
Okay. Motion was made by Barb, seconded by Sylvain. All in favor? So carried. Regretfully. Okay, there was an additional motion that we wanted to include. Barb, are you?
So, that the library board agrees that it will not be necessary to produce a valid library card to access the pantry, the phone, or any other emergency services.
That the library
I think I made that.
Seconded. Seconded for Dorgan.
I just want to clarify the motion that the library board will not be requiring a library card to use the library's food pantry, free phone service, or any other emergency services. Is that clear?
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, is it going to be a staffing policy issue that you're not going to have to advise the staff of this change, and how are they going to enforce it, and what's the next step for you guys?
We operationalize.
It's an operational action.
The
We don't
motions,
need to
yeah.
decide on that here. Okay.
There are 2 things when we get to the policies themselves, later in the agenda that we'll need to clarify, but we'll do those when we get there.
So I think we also have to talk, I know we've had the motion, we've made this decision, but before we move on to the next agenda items, I want to talk about what we have to think about as next steps as a board, because this is gonna have major ramifications for us. So obviously budget, and that's gonna be a big discussion in June, and I think that we all be prepared to have that conversation and look through what that will mean. And have, I'd like Andre to be there to have that conversation with us. I think we, obviously, first step is you and I write this letter explaining the position. I will suggest that there is in the motion, the opportunity to still negotiate this contract. That we are intending to send them a bill for the services to date. And that we would be happy to meet with them to discuss library service. Because I think there's this tremendous amount of misinformation. There were hearing from on the meeting, there were a misunderstanding of how things are funded, right? There's a lot of misinformation about what FOL, for example, pays for versus what we pay for with, what Chris would actually be paying for in their service agreement and things like that. And I would like to clarify that with them if we have the opportunity. Because they have been a partner for a significant amount of time. And I don't think any of us want to see it. We still want to come to a resolution that's positive. So we were going to frame that letter. We're going to submit a bill. We're going to have Sarah operationalize and identify concerns, because there's probably lots of things that we don't know what's going to come as an outcome. And we are going to, what other additional steps do we want to be planning for here?
I have scheduled a meeting to meet with Andre, May the 9th, to begin to look at an alternative 2025 budget that's taking, if we end up with a $74,000 deficit to that budget, where we will start to take some of that funding for 2025. We may also wish to ask St. Mary's Council if they would be willing to put some of the funds from our overage in 2023 towards our 2024 budget.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be approved, but it's an idea. We also probably want to inform our friends in the library. We're about to organize a June book sale, what our realities for 2024 and 2025 might be, and then they can operationalize on their end how, if that will impact the amount of fundraising they wish to do, or at least they have that information.
Yeah.
And I can come back to you with some further information. We won't have a complete and full 2025 budget yet, because we don't know our costs. We won't know our PCIN costs until probably October. But again, we have a working 2025 budget that the board can have a look at and give lots of feedback on. And we may want to just talk about that a couple of times before it's due to council.
So then,
No, Colin was first.
I'm just quick, just finishing your conversation.
Yeah.
What you're gonna do with the library. So would it be an option and another good imposition at the time? We've been dealing with this fellow here exclusively, going back and forth. Would it be in the letter? Would it be an offer that is valid, that you would be willing to attend your next board meeting to explain just everything you just said to us here, as opposed to this guy translating it in Klingon or whatever language he's listening to?
I would be delighted. I would be delighted to
But you may
attend.
want to make that offer is what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. We can make that offer, and I think Sarah's extended that offer multiple times too, but we can make that offer that I would be happy to come and talk to them and explain things to them and operate in good faith and.
And Krista and I would both be happy, I'm sure, to attend to explain it. It to be
No, I'm sure
another
you would.
set of
You would
voices.
explain it very well on our behalf. It's just this,
Yeah,
we seem to everything going through this fellow here, and he's not listening. So, or he's
Yeah.
listening to what he wants to hear and passing on parts of information to the board and obviously to the media, and it's not getting the right story.
So I think we can put that offer in, and I think the chair of the Stratford Library is unwell and would not be able to attend said meeting, but potentially there'd be another representative that we could get to do that. Yeah.
Just to say that the submission of a bill is not reflected in the motion. So
Oh.
perhaps the board would like to make a motion. That bill will be submitted to Purcell.
For sure.
Yeah,
So I,
I'll put that forward.
Collins made the motion
that the
that,
library board direct the CEO and board chair to submit a bill to Per South which reflects the cost of services already rendered in 2024 Per South residents.
Collins made the motion, a second. Vern, all in favor? So carried. Terrific.
No, sorry.
No, yeah,
No,
no,
were you done?
I'm done.
yeah.
I was just going to add that in that letter, it would be nice to outline the fact that we are not hoping to come to an agreement with them just for financial reasons, but because we do want to continue, I don't know how many years of,
Yeah.
you know, partnership and relationship and serving our neighbors.
I actually felt quite sick because I know, because there's a lot of First South residents that I know that are active
Absolutely,
library.
absolutely.
And I mean, Carol Passmore has been one of the most active library volunteers historically in this community, and I just revoked her library card. And I just feel like, I feel really sick.
I do too. It's not a good
So
feeling.
this is a hard night for all of us, so I think
Mhm.
you're absolutely right, Sylvan, that we don't say that we take this lightly, that this is. I mean, as much as we're all volunteers here and council members, but most of us are here are volunteers with busy lives and families and things in our worlds because we love the library and we want people to be able to experience it. So actively revoking that privilege to people, even if they're not who we represent, because we all represent St. Mary's. And that's who we were thinking of in this decision, but actively taking away people like Carol Passmore's library card makes me feel physically ill. So this is a rough night, I think, for a lot of us, so. I think we absolutely still, I think it's a very good point, and we'll make sure we capture that, and we'll send everybody a copy of the letter once we get it done. Any other points we want to make sure that are reflected there?
There was another,
Yes.
something that,
Oh, from Al, the request on the,
So, yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if either of you would like to speak to that,
I will say
Sure.
just a little, and maybe Councilor Allward has something to say, I'm not sure, but anyway, what I've been hearing through this discussion, and to Al's point, that we really don't know the reason for this, we don't know why it's happened, there's been no answers to any questions. We're unsure of the calculation and how it was reached, we don't understand why this came to us at this time, there was no explanation. And the decision seemed to perhaps have come from a closed session and then came into an open session with decision made. So Al had suggested an investigation of some sort. I
closed session
don't have
meeting
the-
investigation.
Yes, regarding that, to just have clarity for us as to how and why this has transpired, so. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you
no,
have
that's,
something to
no,
say
that's,
about it?
well, bar for bar, like that's absolutely what Al said here, and I mean, I think really we need that kind of insight, because how we conduct ourselves as a town and politically, and as a library board is open communication, willing discussion, open hearts, open minds. And I think, to be like completely honest, the Per South staff and council have actively failed their community members here today. And I absolutely would like to know why, because I think it's important for how we run our library and for our service agreements going forward.
I've previously told Al that I would, when he discussed this matter with me, and I told him that I would be. And that he had suggested that it would be something that would be best coming from the chair and as a representative of the library board, and I told him that. I would be comfortable if the library board wished to proceed with that sort of investigation, I would be willing to do so, but I only really want to do it if it's something that the library board wants to proceed with. Because this is I think there's advantages and disadvantages to pursuing it. I don't know if it doesn't change the decision making that happened. We could find out why, which I would love to know, but
I feel somewhat that kind of request should really be coming from a First South resident.
That's what I was gonna say, this car pass one. Sounds like front page.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's their council and it's the decision that affected them. We have made our decision on the basis of the decision that council made. But if I was a member for South, I think that they're the ones that should bring forward any request for an integrity commission to look at. How did that decision get made?
Yeah.
That impacts them. So I understand, what Mayor Scrafty is concerned about. I think we all have concerns about how that process, but that's not our council.
It is probably more than likely just simply budgetary, like there have been like a stated decrease in residents, they need to make cuts somewhere. But the issue really is that there should have been discussion. I shouldn't be catching a random letter from a CAO saying, yeah, we're done service before we even talk about it. It's entirely
And
ridiculous.
also, if it is budgetary, why hide that discussion?
Right, and why can't we have that discussion? Like,
Exactly.
we know what our library service is worth, but we can often negotiate, we understand times is hard, like,
Yeah,
But that very much should have been a discussion that was open to the residents for South
absolutely.
to participate in, because it has impacted them. But I do think that that kind of a request for an investigation should be coming from the community who's served by that council.
Any additional comments?
I agree.
I agree with you, Bart. I think that if there is anyone in Versa who wants more information or things like that, they can feel free to reach out. Our contact information is on the website, and they want additional information from us to make a request. We are more than happy to support them from as a library board, but I think that that's a fair comment. Though, I do want to say on that matter, that if it was a closed session that this decision was made in, it was a presumption that it was a group of people who would not have the political power to make any difference on this, right? So if you go into a closed session on something like this, it's presumed that, and it's very frustrating because the role that libraries have in a democratic society is for individuals who have maybe less economic power or less political power to have free access to knowledge and information and community that everyone else may have. And it's always shameful when that discussion is not made public, that you're making decisions about people who you represent that may not have the same political power as you, and then it happens in a closed session. So as much as I agree with Barb, and I believe that's the tack, but I will say that I do believe it's a shameful thing to have undertaken.
Absolutely.
So, and it's disappointing. But I agree that I think that this is the responsibility for citizens to rectify on that behalf. Okay. Any further discussion, or if we beat this horse dead? Poor horse.
Nay.
Right. Okay, well, shall we move on? And we know this is coming up again. We know that we'll be talking about this next month and in further months to come. All right. We are not having the library surplus discussion until next month, so let's move on to the PCIN strategic plan update.
Okay, so at our last PCIN board meeting, we were privy to a presentation from the strategic plan subcommittee, of which our own Colin is a member. And work has been done to begin to develop that strategic plan. So to be clear, each of the 5 libraries in PCIN have their own strategic plan. And just like PCIN sort of sits on top of all of the library boards, the PCIN budget, strategic plan helps, is somewhat shaped by our plan. So in the development of this, they looked at all 5 of the strategic plans and tried to pull together commonalities. But then it also informs all of us as we meet to help direct and focus us as we meet as 5 libraries in our network. And so I share with you in this report their development on mission, vision, and values. And I would just like to say that feedback from the larger committee was very complimentary on the work that had been done. And it was a really refreshing, efficient presentation and really acted to re-motivate all of us together about a shared vision of library services in Perth County. Colin is a member of the committee. Would you like to share anything before we go through this?
Covered it, as you said, what we did was, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, because every library had their own strategic plan, so we basically cherry picked from each one of them. By the way, St. Mary's won every time for verbiage.
Yes.
We always for more verbiage, but and again, many valuable words were plucked out of everything, so we boiled it down to get everything down, so we're 90% there. We've come up with a firm documented strategic plan moving forward, which we're gonna fine tune at a meeting next week, the week after, our little subcommittee, and we're gonna present a final thing, which we will then pass on to you guys at each library to show you what PCIN strategic plan. And at the end of the day, it's not much different than what each of the libraries' goal is. Like, there's so many common things throughout it. It's all about knowledge and inclusive and all of the typical catchphrases that you want to use to include everybody within the community. But we just boiled it down so it's more quick bullets as opposed to bigger statements. But it was fun doing it, and it was, as Sarah said, we presented to the full PCIM board last month, and we broke off into little groups. And again, it's amazing how everything dovetailed, and we sort of predicted on some of them what they would do. And again, all these professionals, they did what we thought they would do, and we ended up at much the same as what we were thinking. And it was a fun night. So
We're very fortunate in that our board member, Kim, who represents West Perth Public Library, does strategic planning
Yeah.
for a living.
Ideal.
We had a pro and you didn't know it.
It was very, very good.
She was excellent.
So they put forward, and I believe we voted on, yeah, the mission statement of connecting community, not laughing, it's a cough, collaboratively across the Perth County network of libraries by leveraging our strengths, which I liked. Our vision is beyond the traditional, and our values are community, connections, discovery, inclusivity, innovation, investment, lifelong learning, literacy, opportunity, and partnerships. And so thank you to Colin from St. Mary's, Emma from Stratford, and Kim from West Perth for their work on this. So they're going to come back to the committee with some strategic priorities at our June meeting, and then hopefully the committee has done its work, so.
Congratulations, it sounds great.
Well, it's been a good team to work with.
No, it sounds like a PCIN is a pretty remarkable thing, so I'm glad that it seems that's a good mission and vision and values for it.
I like the beyond the traditional,
Okay, any additional comments on that? Okay, then let's go up to the update of library policy.
Just a motion on the table to accept that report of the strategic.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Apparently I can't read this evening. Can I have a motion to accept the report? Burn second, Bergen, and all in favor? So carried. All right, update of library policies.
So I'll do this backwards and start with the additional service that we're adding. So we purchased a large format printer with our 2022 supplies budget line. And the intent of this large format printer is that we want to allow residents and visitors in St. Mary's to print poster sized documents. Because right now that service is not available anywhere in town. And it is a small fund generator for us, and our available, so we're offering 4 different options. 2 of them are different sizes, so a 24-inch or 36-inch and on regular paper, and then a 24-inch or 36-inch on premium paper. Our costing is reflective of the cost of ink and paper, and we wanted it to be reasonable enough that the printer is going to get fairly regular use, because that's what's actually best for the inkjets on it, is to be used regularly, so it also helps us maintain the equipment with frequent use. So our hope is to put this information out through the BIA and promote it to our local businesses, through our service groups, through the schools, through adult learning, through all the services in town, that it's a quick stop at a very reasonable price, because I don't know if you price this at Staples lately. So we're excited to get this launched and to do the work necessary to inform the community. We're probably gonna put something in the newspaper as well, as through our newsletters. We'll ask the town to put out a press release. And then we will make our connections back with the BIA and get the word out as well through them. So we have our costs associated with this in our policy, which is our there, loan periods and fees is where it is. And so you will see in your draft, which of the policy, which begins on page 28, on page 29, we've included the large formatting printing, and it's highlighted and all spelled out there for the community to see. So that's one addition to this policy. The second addition to this policy is the non-resident card. Now, PCIN is also going to look at this. And the Ontario Library Service has undertaken a study where they're collecting from this. So we just all had to put in our annual stats, and they're actually going to do a survey to see, in fact, what the cost of the visitor card idea is across the province, and they're going to share a best practice with libraries. So at the moment, this is reflective of the conversation we had briefly with them, which is the 120 a year or $10 a month. And to be clear, that non-resident card is, and I'd like to have added into our policy in brackets, a non-resident of Perth County. So it's clear that it's for visitors to our county, and that the policy be amended to say $10 a month and 120 a year.
And that is per person, not
Per card. Per card, yeah, not a family rate of multiple cards, but one card issued to one individual.
Not from Perth County or St. Mary's, if you are from an external municipality visiting.
And not a municipality that we have a reciprocal agreement with. So right now, Middlesex County, Huron County, we have Oxford County, we have an agreement with. So if you let St. Mary's residents have access to your libraries, we allow you to have access to our libraries. So not including those, but like Fort Stanley or Grand Bend, well, Grand Bend is actually in Ontario County, is it? Yeah, okay, sorry. Snowball Beach or Meaford, they could have, come here, show us a piece of ID, and get a card for $10 a month or 120 for the year.
It's kind of for seasonal folks. This is like, so anyway, just want that understood, clear as crystal, that this is not for anyone in our region with lives here or has reciprocal agreement with us. Okay.
I would say real quick.
Yeah.
Just with the full-size poster, I can take that to BIA in 2 weeks if you like.
That's great. We're gonna put together something in writing too, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
super
That's
easy to
easy,
make a
yeah.
referral.
Sweet.
So your meeting's in 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's on the 13th.
Okay, we will aim to try and get you something in writing you can pass out.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
exciting that's happening.
It's awesome, for sure.
Great.
It's really cool.
As a young student who had to go print posters.
Yeah.
Did the drive, the Staples. Anyway, sorry.
Sure.
Projects, like, this is big, this is really.
It's gonna be a big deal, Okay, so. Any further discussion?
And then that's that first policy, and then I want to also discuss changes to the second policy. That amendment was made to your board package Tuesday morning. Hopefully everyone received that update. The operational policy is on page 32 of your board package. And this is the circulation policy. So it's impacted by the decision of, around Perth South residents. Line 3.1. I'm recommending a change of, removing the text that's got a line through it. And adding, the wording or contracting municipalities. In line 3.3, I'm making a recommendation that we remove the words that have a line through it and are highlighted in yellow. There is something here for discussion with the library board. At the moment, our policy states any person who lives, works, attends school, or owns property in the town of St. Mary's is eligible to receive a library card with borrowing privileges without charge upon presentation or acceptable identification. I would like the library board to determine if you in fact still wish in people who work in St. Mary's to have access to a free library card.
I'd say no.
Yeah, they're not paying taxes or directly or indirectly through rent.
You could have business owners could have it. You own a business in St. Mary's, you could have a library card for paying taxes.
I don't mind that.
Any thoughts? We'll have to vote on this.
I mean, the other issue is again, that privileges people who have the family that own something. But if we're relating it back to tax revenue.
It should be residents.
Oh, it's only?
Yeah, as we had discussed in
Yeah, I
motion in our
think-
last.
Yeah, I mean, if they live somewhere else, even if they're a property owner, then they'll presumably get their library card from where they live.
Fair enough.
I think it's any person who lives, attends school, owns property in town, St. Mary's.
So to
Against
confirm,
the
I
rule?
hear that you're asking to remove the word work from this policy.
Yeah.
What about attend school though? Are we still gonna do that?
Yes. Students.
Need cards.
Yeah, we need to let kids learn,
Not, we didn't vote.
yeah.
So that the policy will remain with that wording in it unless I hear from them.
No, I think we're all.
We'd like to remove
I'd like to remove it.
How's that enforced? By the staff? How do you guys,
Age of the individual.
you ask for a piece of ID with their,
For the school or work?
Well, I
the
do.
works in, so when you issue a library card, you ask for identification, if they don't have that, meet all those criteria, then you can get covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the proposal was to remove the word work from paragraph 3.3A.
And then, as you can see further on in 3A, I am suggesting we strike the words or Perth South communities. In 3.3B, I have stricken text in that clause. That's payments of this fee entitles each member to full library services. And replaced it with non-residents are restricted to the use of materials owned by our library and not have access to PCIN resources, nor materials owned by other PCIN libraries. So this will be true of anyone who holds a visitor card at the moment. We're a bit early on this because, as I mentioned, PCIN still wants to negotiate around that and have more wholesome discussion. So it's very likely this policy will come again before you again in the fall with a revision to that. But for this purpose, we probably want to make that correction for now.
And don't we want to be more specific about a non-resident or individual not within the St. Mary's catchment of the county of Perth?
This is. Say that again for me?
Well, we want to be clear that, because right now this says if you're not within the St. Mary's catchment.
Yeah.
Or not part of the St. Mary's reciprocal borrowing arrangement, then you can get a card, so that would include people in South Perth.
Okay.
So I think we need to be very clear. Not within the St. Mary's catchment, comma, or a resident of the county of Perth.
Thank you. Okay, and then under 4, clause 4.5.
Before we move on, Sarah, I'm sorry, do we have a technical way? Can the ILS pass on credentials to PCIN database access?
It depends on the database. Really.
It's our understanding from Krista, who was in the role of technology, head of technology for Stratford, that yes, we can do this.
Okay.
I don't know the details, but she has
Okay.
confirmed that. So 4.5, we're just encouraging the addition of an email address there. A lot of people do have email addresses, and it's a handy way to connect with residents. A couple little spelling errors in 5.2 that needs to be captured and fixed. And in section 6 on page 34, clause 6.9, the library will charge a fee for non-resident cards which reflect the cost of library service within the municipality. That's an additional clause added. I am recommending be added to the policy. So it's clear to residents why it is they're being asked to pay. It's directly reflective of the cost of library service to residents. And unless anyone else caught any other errors, that is what I'd like to make amendments on at this time.
Any further comments? So we have multiple motions here recommended. The first of the, no, sorry, it's the 6.4. That the update of the library policy be received, and that the library CEO update EL02 loan periods and fees for the service policy to reflect the amended non-resident card of $120 per year and $10 a month. And that the CEO update the same policy to reflect the new printing costs for the large format printer, and that the CEO update the OP02 circulation policy to reflect the changes in sections 3, 4, and 5 to reflect amended non-resident card criteria.
And I've added just a sentence at the end there to say, including that the criteria of work in St. Mary's be removed. That's to clarify that.
And is someone willing to make those motions? Thanks, Colin. Second, for that, all in favor? So carried.
She kind of looked at me for her.
I was looking around.
Okay.
I went like this sometimes. I get my, gotta keep the neck stretched. All right, no further discussion on that. Let's go move on to round table discussions and hopefully some happy FOL news that would be great to hear.
Short and sweet, really. This is not the epistle that's usually presented. However, the FOL report from the meeting on April the 11th, 2024, there was an expression of disappointment that the space requirements that were calculated and presented to the board and the town team were not raised at our April board meeting. It is hoped that the FOL numbers will be included in the library request for space numbers. And I think because of the way the discussion was, all of that, presentation by the town team had a lot of stuff going on, and it just was that the FOL numbers were not reflected in what was being discussed at the time. So that was brought up at the meeting. Number 2, there was a lengthy discussion with regard to how the FOL should be recognized at the Pride and Drag Queen story times this summer. Wording was the focus. Will the FOL support or sponsor the event? And a question was, how will publicity be expressed vis-a-vis the library's participation? And this was a discussion that was ongoing. It was a rather lengthy discussion. Secondarily to that, it was agreed that the FOL will provide $1,000 to the Pride event with the possible extra $500 for the Drag Queen story time if it is needed due to no other outside funding. Period. That was
Love the FOL.
Carol, do
love
you
it.
want to share the revised dates of the book sale? Have you been told that they are? If not, I'm happy to share them.
Oh, please do. I had a computer meltdown and I couldn't go in it. So I'm not entirely sure that I've seen that.
That's okay. So it was supposed to be the third week of June, but because of perhaps a little concern about the move dates of town staff back into town hall. We conveyed on from the town to the Friends of the Library a request to shift it by a week. So it'll be the last week of June leading into the Canada Day long weekend. So
that's a good
Canada
one.
Day is the first, but it'll be from the Thursday to the Saturday for sure. And it will be in the town hall on the third floor. And their cleanup will just be a little bit longer, because of the holiday. They can't do it in the month, or perhaps they can, do it on the Monday, or perhaps they'll, I'm not sure. It's still just confirmed this week that they're shifting the actual hours, maybe up for some discussion.
It can be really quick festive, actually, if it's on kind of the holiday long, that would be quite fun. Just a quick comment, if the FLL wants to discuss the first out conversations, because this does influence them tremendously, and they want me to attend the meeting or something, you let me know.
Okay.
We will report to that. I report to
I know.
them next Thursday.
But if they,
Well.
yeah, just in case. I'm sure I'm sure that you'll give an excellent report, but I know that I know they have percent members, so it influences their decision making to their members.
And it's been a ways off, but if you're interested in volunteering for the Friends of the Library to help out, there is a bit of concern that because it's the Canada Day weekend, they may struggle a little bit for volunteers. If you'd like to donate your time for a 2 or 3 hour shift, you can let me know and I can share it with Reg. It's a fun 3 hours, honestly. I really enjoy volunteering with them, and it's fun who you get to meet. So. And hear how far people have traveled to come to the sale.
We try not to leave with more books.
Make a donation, but leave the book.
I've got a box sitting at my house I gotta drop off. Okay, well, as always, we love our friends, so thank you for your efforts. And we're sorry for the additional pressures forthcoming. Upcoming meetings. We're gonna have a June meeting, correct?
June 6th would be the next regular date.
So I will not be here. You will not be here. Okay, I will be in attendance, so. If people are unavailable, they could always, as always, let us know, just to make sure that we have quorum. It's not so much that we will have sufficient number of meetings in the year, it's just. We have a lot to talk about right now, so we decided that we think we should have a June meeting as well.
Will the town be looking for new board members? Given that we've lost 2 board members?
I can't answer that at the moment, but because they represented a contracted municipality and now we don't have a contracted municipality, I might say no.
I don't think there's a minimum on the policy, is there?
Right, I was gonna
It'd be like minimum quorum, basically, and then,
There has to be one more non-elected representative than elected officials, but I think that's the only requirement.
So we can maybe,
We're good.
you guys can maybe think about that from the town's perspective,
Sure.
and we can come back to that maybe in June as a discussion topic.
But I'm happy to speak to the clerk about that, just to confirm, but.
absolutely.
Let's put that on the agenda just for June, and we can, if there's nothing that comes to it, we can take it out. Okay. 8:24 PM, is there a motion to?
I'll do that.